Good morning. I want to thank everyone for being here. You hear it a lot, and I want to echo what the governor, the director, and other speakers have said. I want to thank our local first responders. I want to thank our local elected officials, the mayors, the county commissioners, the city councilmen. It falls squarely on your shoulders. We preach it at the State Emergency Management Agency and at the federal level that all disasters begin and end locally. I also do want to thank FEMA. On the night of the 27th, we received our first federal liaison officer into the state EOC. Since then, the FEMA team has grown to 1,100 strong here in Alabama. That's pretty impressive. Their commitment is here. Their commitment is long-term, just as the state is. And I say that because all of us been through a lot of disasters. And I want our local partners to know that this is not a 30-day commitment, 60-day commitment. This is until we get to full recovery commitment. So, and mitigation is part of that. I want to talk a little bit about mitigation, a quick overview. Mitigation is the cornerstone of what we do in emergency management. We deal in phases in emergency management. We have preparedness, we have response, we have recovery, and we have mitigation. Mitigation is the only phase that is dedicated to breaking the cycle. And what I mean by that, it is to break the rebuild, damage again, and then rebuild, repeat damage. Mitigation saves lives. That's the easiest way to put it. There's a lot of engineering terms. A lot of you that have done mitigation projects know that. There's a lot of applications that we have to do. It's all worth it. It's there to save lives. And I'll touch on that here in a little bit, some of the ways we can do that. There's several forms of mitigation that we're going to employ in this disaster that I'm very excited about. The first is what this summit's about, part of it. The traditional 404 Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. When you hear us talk about community safe rooms, individual safe rooms, that's primarily how we're going to do that. We're going to work with you, the local mayors, and the commissioners to develop projects from the local level. Again, please be reminded that all disasters begin and end locally. We have to keep that in mind as we're out in the field working with you to develop projects. The other mitigation that's not talked about a lot, and being a former state PA officer, I have to bring it up, is the 406 mitigation. This deals with, as you've heard the governor and the director and others talk about, schools damaged, 18 schools, 5 basically totally destroyed. When we build back these public facilities, we will build them stronger through 406 mitigation. It's going to be worked into the project worksheets, which deals with public assistance. The federal coordinating officer, Mike Byrne, has made that very clear to his whole team, that all public assistance project worksheets will have a mitigation form in there. If they don't, they'll have to have a justified reason. Now, we tried to get that with trees. I said, let's don't replant trees. That's the only form of mitigation, but that didn't fly. So we will have debris again. I say that jokingly, but anybody that deals with debris, the amount of debris that we have on this, understands what I'm talking about. Mitigation is just that. It's any action taken to reduce future loss of life and property, whether that be through a community safe room, through an individual safe room, or through other projects that are available. With this event, one of the governor's priorities is safe rooms, and we will work to make sure that happens. But we will work with all communities in the state to ensure that their mitigation projects are looked at. All of our counties in Alabama have approved hazard mitigation plans, and I think that's outstanding. We're very proud of that. We have an excellent mitigation staff in Alabama led by Debbie Perry. She is our state hazard mitigation officer, and she'll be on stage later for the panel discussion. She's a walking encyclopedia when it comes to mitigation. I could only sit here and talk about bullet points. If you ask me a question, I'm dead in the water. I'm going to look to Debbie. So all of you will get to know her very, very soon. And we're blessed in Alabama to have such expertise. You know, as we talk about rebuilding Alabama, this is a perfect time to talk about whole community. That is a directive not only from the president, but it makes sense. You know, we have to include the whole community to recover from this type of disaster. Government can't do it alone. Emergency management cannot do it alone. State agencies cannot do it alone. Local agencies cannot do it alone. Private industry can't do it alone. There's a lot of talk about private industry, and we're very encouraged to have private industry in a partnership. We've always had that partnership. It might not have been as celebrated or as talked about as it is now, but it's always been there. But we have to have individual citizens. And I believe we have that in this disaster. We have to have buy-in from each citizen. Each local community has to buy in. I've said many times, and we've all said, this is going to be the most comprehensive and also complex recovery that we face in the state of Alabama. We have to have every level of government working together. Sure, we'll disagree, but we have to work together. It's the only way we're going to do this. And I can guarantee you that the partnership is solid between us and FEMA. And as I've told FEMA, I can guarantee it's solid between the state and the locals. So again, all disasters begin and end locally. We have to work with our local governments to start formulating and creating projects, and then the state working with FEMA to fund those projects in a quick manner. You know, this is not something we can do in 2 years. And I tasked FEMA and I asked FEMA to make sure that we work through the regulations and make sure that we're not here 2 years from now still talking about how we're going to build safe rooms in Alabama. We can't have that. We can't have Hackleburg School and mobile homes, and temporary school facilities without a community safe room. It can't happen. It's up to us to make sure that doesn't happen. It's up to every level of government to make sure that doesn't happen. As we move through, it's very, we have to remember how far we've gone. You know, Hurricanes Ivan, Katrina, major storms that hit Alabama that we recovered from and are still recovering from. But I'm here to tell you, we've moved 5.5 million cubic yards of debris in 49 days. That's tremendous. We cannot slow down. That's the first step that has to happen so we can keep moving. We've dispersed over $52 million in individual assistance money. That's a very good amount. We've placed numerous families in temporary housing units, over 150. We've placed numerous families in rental resources. Again, all good numbers. But what does that really tell us? It tells us we need mitigation in the state of Alabama. It tells us that we can do better. And we have an opportunity to do that now. We'll have the funding to do that now. We'll have the expertise in the state to assist each of our local governments in making sure that happens. You know, I want to thank a few people that are going to help us make that happen. One, and a few of them are here in the room. One is Phil May. He's a regional administrator for FEMA Region 4. He's also an Alabamian. So we know where he lives. We know where his parents live if we don't get what we want. So we'll make that happen. Phil, I appreciate you taking the time out to come over to Alabama, and his staff. Ginger Edwards, who's sitting to his left, one of the best operation officers in FEMA. She was on the phone with me and our team the morning the storms began to hit. I want to thank Albie Lewis and his leadership for spearheading the long-term recovery effort. And that's something that we've talked about in previous storms, but we're putting some meat behind it. And I know the state's going to step up and do what we need to do to make sure that we're supporting that effort as well. Specifically, I want to thank my counterpart, Federal Coordinating Officer Mike Byrne. Me and Mike have many duties that we have to sign and a lot of paperwork that goes through our desk. There's one thing that neither he nor I will delegate. We have to sign each and every burial benefit that hits the state. You have to excuse me for a minute. I apologize about that. But that's 241. We can never forget that. And that's what mitigation's here to do. So what I want to do is just ask Mike if he would like to come up and say a few words about mitigation. Since we normally do our interviews together, I feel like my twin brother's not here. Now, we don't talk alike. He is from New York, so it took us a few weeks to learn what we were saying, but now we're on the same sheet of music. So to go off script, as I normally do with Yaz, and she'll get me, I just want to introduce Mike Byrne, my Federal Coordinating Officer, our Federal Coordinating Officer, for a few words about mitigation. Mike.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever be able to say you all, but I've gotten as far as yous all. Is yous all? Am I getting close? Y'all. Okay. All right. We'll work. I'll work on that. And when I start changing my voter registration card, I think that's when it's coming. Yeah. First of all, thank you, Jeff. And this is a partnership, and it's a strong partnership. We're focused, and we're focused from the outset. Sometimes I was a Region 2 Response and Recovery Division Director about 11 years ago. And, mitigation wasn't always on the forefront, and it took a lot of strong leadership, and it took a lot of, quite frankly, mistakes made in terms of not paying attention for us to finally get to the point we are now, where mitigation isn't just an afterthought. It is right in the front of what we're doing. We had mitigation, as Jeff said, with 406, we're going to bring it on with the project worksheets, and we're also going to commit to doing everything we can to get the applications going and get the process done in a fast and expeditious way, so that we owe it to the legacy of these 241 people. Let's remember them by building safer and building smarter, and we have the opportunity to do that. I also want to just acknowledge a couple of, first of all, like Jeff already acknowledged, Phil May has just been, is just a real partner and a great leader, in terms of supporting me and my team in the field here from the regional level. But also have to acknowledge that Sandra Knight from headquarters, the Assistant Administrator for Mitigation, is here today because she too and her team are here because they're committed to this opportunity, this real opportunity that we have to build safer here in Alabama and to be a model, truly a model. Last thing I want to say is you think about the way we build, and I come from a pretty rough part of New York, but even in that rough neighborhood in New York I grew up in, you wouldn't think of building a house or an apartment building without having bathrooms in the apartments. And you wouldn't think about building a house nowadays without a bathroom inside it. Now, that wasn't always the case, 100 years ago. Well, living in Tornado Alley, how can you build a house or a community or a school or a public building without building a safe place to go? It's just, I think we just have to accept, start thinking that way. Just start thinking about comparing it to what would we be willing to put up with in terms of, the way we normally build, and just realize that this isn't something extraordinary that we're doing to build safe rooms in, but it's something that is just core part of what we do, and it's just common good sense. And this state is full of a lot of common sense, as has been evidenced all today. Well, thank you, and I look forward to making this happen in the state of Alabama with my partner Jeff and Art. Thanks.
All right. Having said that, we'll wrap this portion to the close. But mitigation is something that we're excited about. It's something we have to do. It will be our piece of the puzzle from an emergency management standpoint in our long-term recovery efforts. Please take the time to ask questions during the panel. Seek out Debbie Perry and her staff. State EMA will be ready to assist as we get teams in the field. And I want to thank you for your time. Thank you.